everybody, Nikki and Greg here, and we just want to briefly show you our new client's website that we just launched. What you're looking at now is not the new site. This is his old site. So we're going to walk through some of the aspects of his old sites that we didn't like or we did like, and then we're going to go to the new website. But this is Right Path Adventures. They are a tour operator. Their main tour is in the Dolomites, but they do some other tours across Europe. But Greg's with us. He's a designer by trade. So, Greg, when you look at his old homepage, what are some of the things that you see as I scroll down here?
Yeah, first I like to start with what they're doing well. If you scroll back to the top, um, he's showing some trust badges. It says Traveler's Choice for TripAdvisor up at the top. That's a great thing to have. There's clear calls to action and a good navigation. The biggest thing I see on the navigation is there are quite a few pieces. So how does that look when the site's scaled down to maybe a smaller laptop size? Is it wrapping to the bottom? Is it easy to navigate? So that was one of the things that I know our SEO team looked at is how do we simplify the navigation a little bit to make it really easy to navigate. And then the text on the image is kind of hard to read. Knowing that a lot of his demographic is 50 plus, it's important to make sure that the text is as legible as possible, while also being functional in the design. Like I'm not one that likes to do things only for accessibility unless it's specifically for that kind of group of people, and so making sure that it looks good still. So that's some of the things there. um, if we scroll down, just some of the text, I remember on the live site it was a little small, so making that a little bit bigger.
I think, especially for his demographic as well, I think when you're building a website, you really need to put your shoes in your ideal customer, who is your demographic.
Yeah, I think he has a lot of good things going on here.
Yeah.
One of them in this section, like it's using the same icon over and over. So I would either get rid of the icon or use different icons potentially. Um, that's one of the things I saw. Not that we can't still have the same icon, it just might clean it up a little bit. Scrolling down, yeah, the testimonials here is great to have on the page. It could be designed just a little bit, cleaner, and maybe call out some of the things a little bit more clearly. I love the section about him and his wife and their experience, but it is a very short piece, 2 paragraphs about them. Like I might want to know more, especially if I'm going on a long tour with them. So having a link to another page that goes a little bit more in depth on who they are, why they started the business, what I'm going to experience with them could be cool.
One thing that I noticed is looking at this, there's really no branding. There's no, when I look at this company and I look at the logo, I do see these beautiful images, but I don't really see what kind of branding we're trying to portray here.
It looks more like TripAdvisor because the buttons match the TripAdvisor icon at the top. There's a lot of TripAdvisor icons throughout the whole website. So I agree with that with the branding. The other thing is once you kind of get past these cards, there's not very many calls to action. Um, Maybe not even any. And so making sure you have calls to actions throughout the site, because what happens when someone gets to the bottom of the page, or is it clear what you want them to do? Obviously, the footer is going to help direct them with that, but that middle portion doesn't really give that.
Now we're looking at one of Gary's old tour pages. Greg, do you see anything?
Designed well, it is a lot of white. So, like when we talk about that branding, there's nothing that makes it stand out outside of another website. Like it's just kind of a lot of content on a white screen, which does make it easy to read and navigate. The green is kind of bright, or if that's the right word, it makes it a little bit hard to read as well. So some of the accessibility on the link color. Um, if we scroll back to the top, there was something, and he has rotating images here, which is nice. And I can't remember if when you click on that, if it opens up a pop up or not. But if it didn't, then that would be important to have because I don't want to just swipe through or click through a bunch of images. I want to be able to see them like in a grid or see them quicker kind of like how it was on the homepage. Um, the thing I want to note about this website is, like I mentioned, there's a lot of good things going on here structurally, but we look beyond just the design. So we're looking at, the SEO of it all and the heading structure. And so here, like Dolomites Walking Tours 2026, that's probably a good keyword. Um, was it set up as an H1? I can't remember. Should it be? Yes. Are there other pieces throughout this page that are going to support that? Not very much. There's some in the content, but maybe adding some other sections that, reinforce that main keyword through other headers and other content lower on the page is going to be super helpful as well.
I think it's important to note that Gary is utilizing Resmark systems as a booking software too. So not only are we creating his website, we're doing his ongoing SEO, we are now building his tours within Resmark that easily integrates onto his website. So we only have to update it in one place and it automatically updates on the website, which is really nice. I think it's going to be really efficient for Gary. So that's really great to see. So let's keep moving on. We're going to show just really briefly his old about page and contact us page. Looking at his about page, the one thing that I think is pretty noticeable, which Greg actually mentioned it, I believe it was on the homepage, is there aren't any call to actions. Even on an about page, it is important to get people to do what you want them to do. And if that's on the about page, maybe it's contact us, maybe it's book a tour, check availability. We need something on here to get them to do the next thing.
Yeah, you can see there's one call to action at the very bottom. What I would like to see is like in the kind of section about them, having a button that's like, book a tour with us or something like that as well. The art philosophy section, the green text on that background color just makes it a little bit hard to read as well. But yeah, calls to action, and then the going back to SEO. This is a page where you could really focus on some of your keywords potentially, depending on what the keyword research shows, and making sure to call that out on here because you want good heading structure on all your sites, all pages, not just a couple.
The last page we'll take a look at before we look at the new improved website is the contact page. So the first thing I notice here is it's really simple, but it does have how to contact them. It has their email and it has a form, which I think is really nice. So on my end, I don't have too much to say about the contact us. It would be nice to have a little bit more design to it, a little bit more information, next steps.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think overall the purpose of a contact page is to allow someone to quickly contact you, so you don't need a lot. I do like that the forum's up at the top. You could have a little image at the top just to reinforce the branding and what they're going to be excited about. You could have some additional information underneath just to help support what it is you're trying to accomplish with your website. But at the end of the day, this is the goal of the contact page. It has phone numbers, email. They probably don't have an office that they want people to go to, so leaving that out's fine. I would only, include a map and like address if it's a location that people are actually going to come to. So overall, this is a good page.
Let's take a look at the new website and see if we addressed all of these issues. All right, what you're looking at now is the new site that the Resmark web team created for RightPath. Obviously, right now we're looking at the homepage, and you could probably see a huge, huge, huge difference. Greg actually had a big input on this design. So I'm going to let Greg take it away with the homepage. What were you thinking when you redesigned this homepage, Greg?
Yeah, so when we redesigned this, one thing we wanted to do was really focus on their logo and the brand colors and implement those a little bit more. Obviously, you can see a lot of blue on the site, and there's no blue in their logo. There's reason for that as well. We also used a different logo that they had that kind of is just a little bit more intricate. Shows who they are a little bit better. We wanted to make sure we still focused on, those trust badges, the TripAdvisor logo right there in the middle, the reviews up at the top. We have calls to action. So book a trip in the top right, cart for checking out as well. And then we simplify the navigation, which I think makes it a lot easier to browse. Whereas the other navigation had like almost probably 10 items that I really had to digest what they were. Whereas here, I know destinations, I can already anticipate what's going to be there, even if I don't know the destinations. There's going to be different locations, right? And so, since that's the main thing we want people to do, making that really clear call to action or navigation element is important. And then focusing on our H1 here, the number one rated Dolomites walking tour. So that's big, bold. One thing I didn't want to do was have a bunch of small text on top of the image because it makes it hard to read. But I think this makes it captivating with, the nice imagery we have, but then also, a really good H1 there. We added a WhatsApp link because a lot of people WhatsApp him, and then also live chat so that people can ask questions and get feedback quickly from him. And then the search bar that you can see at the bottom here, allowing people to just get right into booking and finding what they want to go and do. So you can choose the location, how many days do you want, what months are you looking for, and that'll take you to a page that will show those trips that are available at that time. So that was some of it. The background color here is like a tan, so that's kind of what's playing off of the brand coloring. And then the blue we chose because when you have your calls to actions, you want them to stand out. And the yellow stands out, but the blue just looks a little bit better. It also kind of mimics the sky and some of the mountain colors that you're going to see out there. So then it pairs well with the different colors of the tans and browns and oranges.
One thing I'd like to say is Gary had a lot of input on this when we showed him the first preview of the homepage. He wanted very specific images in this hero section that you're seeing now. He wanted them to rotate in a very specific time frame, so every 2 seconds. So having his input was invaluable. It allowed us to create a website, and we'll continue going through it, but it allowed us to create a website that he absolutely loved. One thing that we were going back and forth on is you could see here he offers destinations and places outside of the Dolomites. However, our H1, which is the main text you see here, we're focusing on the Dolomite. So we had to go back to our SEO team and ask, is that appropriate? Should we be talking about the Dolomites in the H1 when we have these other tours? And of course, the answer was yes, which is why you're seeing it here because we are not focused on Portugal and Slovakia. But having that sort of collaboration back and forth with the project manager, with the client, with the design team, with management, it allowed us to create a website that he absolutely loves.
You'll see some of the branding here that we added, some of these icons, the color, the consistency of the color. It's a lot easier to read the calls to action without that lime green, and just kind of fits together. Yellow and blue, opposite sides of the color wheel, so they often go really well together. So bringing, I guess that's more of a gold than a yellow, but they play off of each other really well and complement each other. He has a lot of cool little videos from his phone that we were able to add here to show what you're going to be doing and really capture the fun of this trip. So once you can, as you continue to scroll down, the top section is really about them and what you're going to kind of get, and then we dive into their most popular tours and allow people to go straight into learning more about those tours, which takes you to a page that then I'm sure we'll look at, but goes more in depth on what specifically is involved in that trip. This section of what our guests say, having client testimonials is huge. A website can speak to me, but if I have real people saying how much fun they had, it's always going to be better. So showing pictures of them and having their review there is powerful.
We're not just showing pictures and pulling testimonials of anybody. We're pulling specific testimonials of specific people that are his demographic because we had tons of photos and testimonials to choose from. That's how granular we're getting when you design a website. We need to build a site that is very, very targeted with the right message to the right people.
If you remember the old site, it was just kind of text. There was no imagery with the reviews. So I think this is a good balance there. If you remember the other site, this was just the one where it's all the same icon with the text. So we kind of took the same idea, added some imagery, added some different icons, and really makes this section stand out a lot more than just being on white with text and a bunch of the same icon.
Gary, the client, actually hired a professional photographer while we were designing this website. We went back to the client and said, we don't have that many high quality photos. We can make it work, of course, as designers. However, if we had better photos, it will make the website so much better. It is so important to get good photos, good photography. And if you don't know if your photos are high quality enough or the right resolution, reach out to us and just ask. We're happy to help because it is really important that you have good quality photos across your website, which a mix of these are his old photos and a lot of them are his new photos. He wanted them really bright, so he picked a bright, sunny day for the photographer to come out.
Yeah, so one thing you'll notice too is we have a lot of the same content or content ideas from his old site. His old site was done fairly well, missing some of those elements and the finesse. So even like this section, the Gary and Katrina section, it's very similar, but now there's a learn more button that can go to another page that talks, which that page existed before, it just wasn't linked. And so having those interlinkings of your pages helps with SEO as well. Google sees that as a good thing. So if you have a section on a page that can be linked to another page, like highly recommend doing that as long as it's supporting, the goal of that page as well. If you're on the product page and you're trying to get them to book, you don't want them to leave that page. Whereas this is the home page. It's basically just a bunch of billboard sections and you want them to leave the home page to go deeper into your site. So I think we also did a good job of showing some of the awards and accolades he has here, and then including the gallery as well, and making sure that it still stands out. And I think if you click on these, it opens up a bigger window, so you can kind of look through them that way as well if you want to see them bigger.
I
Yeah,
love the
the
way it's
FAQs are
designed.
nice here, and they're also wrapped in schema. So that's basically code for saying, "Hey Google, these are FAQs. Treat them like FAQs," which helps them be prioritized in the other people are asking section on Google results. And LLMs, large language models, read them as well, the AI bots and all that. So it's good practice to do things like that as well. An important piece here too is we have the sticky navigation at the top, which means it follows you down the page. So there's always going to be a book a trip button visible, which is good. But we also end the page with the solid, you know, call to action as well to the ultimate goal here. Like, yeah, we want them to go and read about our blog and read about us and do all these other things. But at the end of the day, we want them to book a trip. And so having that, if they make it to the end of the page, reinforcing that call to action is great. And then having, clear contact information, a newsletter sign up, which just builds your leads. When you're using ResMark systems, especially, this is a form from there. So it's going to build your leads in ResMark, which then you can send out automated emails to those leads based off of that form and really, nurture them to purchase and be a fan of your company. The one thing that you'll notice is Nikki went into destinations and clicked on a destination there. And in this case, he only has one tour in each location, I believe. So there's not really a need at this point to build a dedicated destination page. But if he has multiple tours in the Dolomites, then we set it up so that we could build, that destination page that's all about the Dolomites. And now you have different tours in the Dolomites that you can then go to the dedicated tour pages like this one. What I love about this page is it brings in the homepage. So the main image with the text is the same style as the homepage. So there's that branding and that consistency as you go throughout the site, but it's smaller. And so as you go throughout the rest of the site, it's going to be similar. So you kind of know where you're at in the website. It's not the homepage, and it's just kind of going throughout the site. As you scroll down, you can see we added some of those cards, some icons, it's a lot of the same content blocks, adding these testimonials, which is really what's improving this page from just being a ton of content, but really breaking it up into sections that are a little bit more visually impactful, but also a little bit more digestible. When you just see a bunch of text on white, sometimes it's harder to read, but when it's a little bit more digestible, you can scan it a lot easier, which is what most people do the first time they come through anyway.
A lot of this is actually pulling directly from Resmark. So if Gary ever wanted to add additional photos for the Dolomite store, he just does this right into Resmark and then it integrates right on the website. So that's really great. A few other things, the overview that's pulling directly from Resmark. So a lot of these things are just happening in one place. When you update a product or a tour, it just automatically gets updated on your website. And then when somebody is ready to actually book the trip or check availability, when they click here, everything is happening and it's integrated and it goes right into Resmark when they go on and do this.
Yeah, one of the best things, obviously, he doesn't have tons of tours. There's three. But if you have a lot of tours connecting a Resmark like this, the price gets pulled in. So every year when you go and update your pricing, you do it in Resmark, it's done on the website as well. Whereas I've worked on sites that have, 30 plus tours and you have to go into the tour booking software and to the website and update it in a bunch of different places. Whereas here it's going to update on this page and in Resmark at the same time, which is awesome.
On to the About page. What I like about the About page is we really brought in the story of Gary. Gary has an amazing story. And I think it builds a lot of trust, especially for people who are nervous about traveling internationally or about long hikes, multi day hikes, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and one thing I like about this is it's focusing on the guides. Like you clicked on about our guides. Yeah, we care about the company and the history there, but in a situation like this, the guides are the company and the history. So really focusing on the guide when you're going to go on a long trip like this, your guide is going to make or break your vacation. If they're a good guide, you're going to have a fantastic time. If they're not, you still might have a great time, but maybe it's not as good as it would have been if they were really engaging and someone that you really want to travel with. So for a company like this page is super important because it's going to, in my opinion, it's what's going to set you apart from all the other Dolomite tours, walking tours that you could go on. Is, do I like the guide? Do I think that it'll be a good time?
And last but not least, again, there are quite a few other pages that you could look at, but let's just so we can compare it with the old contact us page, look at the contact page. Website with his demographic, get in touch. Quite similar to the old website where we have the form. We have a little bit of information, but now we have an image and a call to action. What we were missing on the old website.
Yeah, we also added in the social icons there, which is nice. Gives you a way to quickly go in and maybe ask questions there, or see if people have, maybe ask questions on Facebook or Instagram, or just see more about the company.
All right, Greg, do you have any other things to say about Gary's website?
Just that this was a fun project. There were some ups and downs of trying to get it right for what Gary was envisioning as well. But that's the fun of design, is really figuring out how to get someone that has a vision in their head to like the vision that you have in your head as well, and have them match. And I think we did that here, and super fun project.
And now that the site is launched, we have ongoing monthly strategy calls with Gary where we're talking about the progress. We're making edits as needed and we're strategizing together. So that's going to be really fun to see the growth over time. And I'm really excited to share that just over the weekend, Gary sent me and his account manager an email saying that they got their first new client. And remind you, his website literally just launched. So it's really exciting for our team to see that and for him to see that. We could see that he was excited because we really, as a team, want our tour operators to succeed. that is so important to us. We were really happy for him. So if you'd like to look more into Right Path Adventures, please check out his website. Let us know what you think. And of course, if you'd like us to do a deep dive into your website, if you'd like us to do a free website audit, an SEO audit, we'd love to chat with you. No obligations, of course. So go to resmarkweb.com and hit book a call and we'll have a chat. We'll talk to you later.